All right, cool. Okay, we'll go into our briefings from the administrator. Begin with Mark, if Mark is with us and ready. Okay, I will go check on Mark. See he's logging in here. There he is. All right, Mark, if you're ready whenever you are.
Let me pull up my. All right, we are ready. Good morning.
Morning.
I think that we have TJ. We do, Todd Cannon. So TJ is going to give us an update on our issues that we've been having with our emails lately. Todd.
Good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
So firstly, I'd like to address what just happened, why we dropped internet. So we've been taking on a large amount of denial of service attacks to our firewall, as well as port scan events. We're seeing around the neighborhood about 1,500 hits per second, which by the time you add that to our normal internet traffic, it's too much for the firewall to handle. So it's actually doing what it's intended to do and dropping all connections and rebooted. It's not ideal, but that's how it can clear all connections and reset and get us back online. It takes about 3 minutes for it to reset every time. It's been happening multiple times a day. So I do have a upgraded firewall that I've been working on getting in place, but I do need to schedule a time to take the county down for a couple hours to make that transition. So something I'll be setting up here shortly, and it should be able to handle a much greater load and handle these attacks a little better. So in recent events, as well as this, 2 weeks ago, we had numerous phishing attack emails sent out to basically every county employee. About 30 employees actually opened the email. It appears all of our protections, our antivirus, did what it needed to do and blocked all infections. We verified that by going into each machine and double checking that everything was removed and nothing was left behind. We went ahead and opened up the infection on an isolated machine just to see what it was and what we were dealing with. It's an older attack that has recently resurfaced. It's actually known as squirrel waffle. It's not a super dangerous attack in itself, but it opens the doors to more Trojans to come in and further infect. We monitored everything. We thought all infections were cleaned up. But then last Thursday, we started noticing we found 2 machines that were relaying emails. So an outside source has set up email system to impersonate employees and are emailing other people with infections. 2 of our computers were acting as a relay, so they were able to send email through us and back out. We immediately grabbed those machines, took them offline, inspected them to know what we're dealing with, and then wiped them with no data recovery and rebuilt them for the users. Those users were advised to change every password they have. We disabled their account and changed their passwords for county business immediately. The infection that they got was known as emotet, and it is an infection that's known to steal passwords out of a browser. It can act as an email relay, and it will also mine address books for known contacts so they can spread more infections. So those computers have been taken care of. Our biggest fear is that they appear to have slept for a while. Almost a full week had passed in between the first event and the second. So we're continuing to monitor everything, and we actually are currently, as we speak, deploying a tool that is looking for that infection specifically to make sure we don't have anything else left out there. Everything right now is showing that we are clean, but we want to be sure. So, and that's about it. If you got any questions.
If there's any questions for Todd?
Oh, quick comment, man, you guys are You guys are on the ball. We appreciate you keeping safe and clean, I guess.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's, I'm proud of our team. There's definitely some lessons learned, just like anything like this, but, you know, I think it was handled better than expected. So.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. You know, having an opportunity to work with TJ and Ben on the IT steering committee. This has been a topic that has come up at every meeting, and how do we prepare and how do we protect and defend, you know, the county from all these different, you know, cyber attacks. And they just do a fantastic job, and it's good that we're having those conversations. It's just really critical. So appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Next.
Thanks, TJ. Next, Deb Gould, you're going to talk about our treasurer's office.
Yeah, I'm requesting to place on the agenda an out-of-class pay request from the treasurer's office for a senior cashier that's going to be doing finance deputy 1 duties, and in accordance with the union contract to do a 5% pay increase effective March 1st through July 31st.
And just to be clear, these actions that are listed here are not under the person's current duties at all?
Correct.
Commissioner Trask.
And this is due to another person not being in the office, right?
Yeah, it's for an approved leave of absence for 5 months.
Okay, I'm good.
I am good as well.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so then Jen, are you ready to talk about, I think you're talking about ER&R and motor pool?
Yes, I am ready. Thank you, Mark. Good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
I'll go ahead and share my screen if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, so we have the ER&R and motor pool comparison. And so every year we'll be presenting this to the commission as was agreed on when we switch to motor pool, when we move the current expense and health out of ER&R and into motor pool through enterprise. So we took the ER&R actual averages from 2018 and 2019 and put a price inflator, and I used the Bremerton CPI-U of 7.6% for inflating the ER&R actual costs from 2018 and 19. And then I also used the same 7.6% price inflator to inflate 2022 through 2029, so that we're comparing apples to apples. Other assumptions made in this analysis are the fuel, and I did make an adjustment on the fuel since this was presented. I found an error. So the fuel, we have 150,000 through ER&R, and that is taking the average cost in 2021 of $2.97 a gallon for unleaded. And in the enterprise side, the fuel was an average of $3.67 a gallon, which is a big difference, 70 cents a gallon. But in ER&R, everything is behind. So we get the bill and the fuel is posted on a lag, where in enterprise, we're paying for it at the live price. So, and the cost of fuel went up so much, but I wanted to make sure that it was, reflective of what we would have paid. So, so I used the actual, what we paid for fuel in 2021. I just used that same dollar amount throughout 2020, 2029. And for ER&R, I adjusted that fuel to reflect the $2.97 a gallon in ER&R. So other assumptions in here, the PPVs. So we had three wrecked PPVs. And so we're replacing those 3 in 2022, and we'll have a payout to Enterprise for 2 of them. And I assumed about 50,000 per vehicle if we wreck those. So that's why it's only 100,000 and not 150,000 for the 3, where in every other year, 2023 through 2029, we're assuming the 50,000 per vehicle. And looking at this analysis, we're saving approximately 834,000 over the 10-year period. 2020 and 2021 are updated with actuals, and then 2022 through 2029 are projections. So are there any questions on this before?
Yeah, is there a possibility of giving me a number over the first 5 years of savings?
Well, I mean, according to this, the savings would be approximately 674,000
Okay.
over 5 years. But yeah, over the 10-year period, about 834,000. And this is just on the police pursuit vehicle side.
Yes.
So if we go, I'll go to the non-police pursuit vehicle side in just a moment. Are there any other questions on the police pursuit vehicle?
No, just a comment on it. You know, we were dropping an average of, for the newer vehicles, $600,000 to $800,000 for the 5-year periods. So if we're saving this much and getting brand new vehicles for them, how did you weight the fuel versus a benefit or a savings?
So on the fuel, I took the number of gallons that we used for 2021. And so on the PPV side, we used about 50,000 gallons roughly. And so I took that $2.97 per gallon times the 50,369 gallons and came up with the approximately 150,000.
Okay, but that's just a static number, right? That shouldn't have anything to do with savings, unless you're going to say that each vehicle now gets 3 more miles to the gallon because it's newer.
I wasn't taking any of that into consideration.
You just have it up there.
Yeah, I think that was residual from the initial analysis.
No, that's fine. That's good.
Okay. And then, yeah, I just, I didn't inflate it since since the ER&R number here is not inflated. I didn't inflate any of these numbers. I just took the actual amount that we expended and moved it forward. I mean, I could have applied the 7.6 there.
No, that's okay. I just was, if you're not using it, if it's a static number, that's fine. So, no, go ahead. This is actually very promising.
Yeah, I mean, putting in the actuals for 2021, according to this analysis, and I mean, it is, you know, again, still a projection of 2022 through 2029, but we're actually projecting to save more in this year's analysis than we did during last year's analysis. This one is about 285,000 average per year when we include the non-PPV and PPV. Last year it was about 230,000 overall per year is what we projected. Although this analysis does not have any staff time included in it for our motor pool side of things. but even including that, we're still saving a lot more than we would have, had we been in ER&R.
How did you incorporate the monies that we spent for new vehicles over the last 5 years? But before we entered into the lease, how did you put that money in?
So the money that we had expended on new vehicles.
Yeah.
I took, I'm saying if we took our annual needs for PPVs are approximately 8, if we take an average of, what we're purchasing, and then including, one wrecked vehicle, not that we're planning on wrecking one per year, but it is what it is, since we don't have any insurance for PPVs. So if we take 8 per year, we're taking the average purchase price, which is the 27,000, or I'm sorry, that's the aftermarket. It's the it's about the 74,000. So if we take the 69,168 and include the inflation factor, the 7.6, it's about 70 some thousand per year. I mean, per vehicle, including the aftermarket equipment. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, not really, because it's something I'll work with you on later to figure out for myself. Okay. I'm trying to figure out, because literally we didn't have a set number where we may have had needs of 8, but we were supplying 4, 3, 6. I'm trying to think if we ever had a year where we actually provided 8 pursuit vehicles. Ever.
Not that I can recall.
Yeah. So it's hard. It's definitely hard to figure out that number. I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, if we averaged how much money we spent to give, for the vehicles we purchased for the 5 years before this, versus how much if we would have continued on the same course, we would have expended that same amount.
Yeah, it is hard to weigh that, especially when, the more vehicles that we had through ER&R, the more of the indirect costs we were paying. And so it is hard to compare, make a good comparison because of that.
But if we're basing the savings off of that number there on the 8, that they don't really compute, because we weren't buying 8 a year.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and then moving on to the PPV side. So we have an average savings of about $2,009,000 over the 10-year period. Again, the 2020 and 2021 numbers are reflected to or adjusted to reflect actuals. The actual fleet itself, I adjusted the number. We had 61 last year when we presented, and I included the additional 5. We purchased 2. One from number 188 from ER&R, and then and actually we didn't purchase 2. We transferred number 102 since it was purchased with grant dollars through the health department. So that's now included in our fleet, and number 188 is now included in our fleet. So I increased the white fleet to include those numbers, and then I also included the 3 special vehicles that we have for the sheriff's office that were not included in ER&R. They were always separated out. And so I'm including them now because they're included in motor pool, and we do pay a maintenance fee on those. So again, in order to try to make the apples to apples comparison, I adjusted the final white fleet number to be 66. And then we have the PPV side, which didn't change from last year, the 46. So we now have a fleet size of 112. So any questions on any of that? I know it's a lot of moving parts, and this is just a snapshot in time.
And I get it. You've done a great job. One of the things maybe I'd like to see, because there's something I'm actually looking for here that you wouldn't know unless I explained it, I guess. But if we were to take the rates that we've paid out over the last 5 years through all our departments that are now using this, because we're not paying any of those rates into ER&R anymore, and if we are, we need to subtract that from the number and add to those rates whatever we spent outside of ER&R, because we did purchase vehicles under other different ways of getting them, and put all that together. That'll give us a number that we can use to extrapolate from here on over 5 years to see where it comes out. I expect that it should cost more than what we've always spent, but the difference is now we're providing vehicles on a regular basis to pursuit. And we don't get to the point where we have vehicles with 200,000 miles on it anymore. And we're spending maybe an additional 100 or a couple 100,000 a year. That would be doing well, because we were spending an additional 400,000 or so at times a year, up to 800,000 at one point. I think we did one crazy year. I don't know if that makes any sense to you.
I think it does. And I mean, I really feel like we're capturing, the purchase price here, really we would have been paying maybe even more in the maintenance side of things, having, to shift that indirect. So, yeah, so I think that we are saving, really close to between 250 and 300,000 per year, I would say.
For our overall expenditures, and we're providing new vehicles for our law enforcement.
Yes.
Then that's the number that I'm actually looking for, and that's a huge win.
Yeah, but yeah, if you want to talk afterwards, and we can see if there's a different way you want to see this.
I appreciate all your work, and you're pretty much answering. I just like to know from my own back pocket what the actual number is eventually. But no, you did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can email this to you, commissioners, if you want to, look at the formulas and see what's going on behind the scenes here.
Would be cool.
Okay, I'll do that. So that's all that I have on the motor pool comparison, unless there's any other questions.
That's great.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll stop my share. And the next thing that I have is the citizen inquiry to purchase parcel number 32007-13-00050 off of Johns Prairie Road. The actual parcel does not have an address right now at this time, which is why I'm just referencing the parcel number. This is that weird triangle shaped property that I brought forward on January 31st. And I do have the map up if you want to take a look at that again.
Sure, go for it.
Oh, maybe. Okay, so this is, that property off of Johns Prairie Road that Mark Kamen has inquired about purchasing. There are his two parcels on either side of this small 0.2 acre parcel. And I did ask what these are, these structures, and he had said it was like a picnic area, and Kel had said it was Mendoza's, she thought, which are all, movable structures. So we can, nothing's permanent there, is my understanding.
Is Mendoza leasing it, or?
They are not. So, that's a separate issue. I don't think anybody was aware that that this was county property.
So
Yeah.
Jennifer, the only question that I have, I'm looking at the value, and if that's Mendoza's, and there's more land there than I thought. But aside from that, the question I'm having is, how do we do this? So we go through a process and we surplus it, but usually when we set up a piece of property for sale, that is surplus like this, especially commercial, there's usually a requirement of some type of appraisal. It's different when we have a tax parcel number, or tax parcel sale, then we have a bottom amount and then we're listing it above that amount. But if this is a tax parcel, if we actually purchased it, in order to resell it, don't we have to have an appraisal of sorts?
So that's the part that I don't really know. I mean, this is really my first one. My understanding was that we could, and Diane might be able to speak to this better. We can surplus it at the same time as we set the public hearing, I guess. We were thinking April 12th, but I reached out to Richard Beckman for an appraisal, or for a value. I'm sorry, not an appraisal, just a value. And he had said it was difficult to come up with a value because of the different factors on the property.
Hey, Jen,
Yes.
I actually have Richard Beckman in my office. So do you want him to, he's here to help me talk about the property purchases.
Well,
Would you like to?
Even on this one, I don't think it's a question for Richard. The question I'm having for it is on tax parcels that we've got through the tax process. There's a way that we sell it. That's fine. But this was not purchased or not acquired through a tax. Somebody did not pay their taxes. So with that, it's a commercial piece of property. We need to ask Tim whether or not it has to be appraised before we can sell it. I think that's the real question. Or whether there's a value, a lower number, upper number that allows us to sell it without going for an appraisal. Because this is not a tax title deed property.
I would tend to agree with that. This would, in my mind, would follow a similar approach that we took for the parcels out near Public Works.
And that's what I'm worried about. I would hate to sell it and then find out, or tell somebody we're going to sell it, go through the process and find out that we're violating the law and there had to be an appraisal, a yellow book appraisal to top it off.
I think it would be worth a quick conversation with Tim before we move forward.
Okay, yeah, I'll reach out to Tim. I know last time I had brought it forward, there were the questions about, if it was commercial, if it wasn't. I guess there's a BPA easement running through it. So, I mean, depending on what Tim said or says, when I talk to him, are you interested in selling it?
I am. I'm okay with going through the process of surplusing it. We don't sell to one individual. We surplus and then we put it on the market.
Yes, okay.
I also wonder about because I think right now there's a food truck on it, and I'm wondering about the people that have already put up a business on it. So that's got me a little intrigued as well.
Well, also they may want to buy it.
Yeah.
I see Patty's hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. Patty McLean, do you have?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch base on this parcel you guys are talking about. It was actually an omitted parcel that we created in 21 because of a review on a deed, and Mason County was actually the owner on it. And I wouldn't trust those property lines. I can almost bet that those improvements aren't really on it. It might be the line might be a little south on that one. It's just for reference only. They're not 100%. So, I mean, I don't know if that food truck stuff is really on that piece of property. But this parcel was actually just created in 21 because of a review on a deed for that omitted little triangle on that side of the road. It was carried with the Continental Floral that was on the other side of the road. So I can't remember if it was Mr. Kamen that brought in the deed for us to review, but it was a seg of that parcel, the southerly of the right of way for that deed to Mason County. And it was a pretty old deed. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of history when it was created.
But doesn't it say somewhere that we purchased it for $1,700? $1,742.
Yeah, we put the sale document in, but the sale document was from 1990.
Yeah.
We just yeah.
So, but it was actually purchased by the county for a purpose at that time.
Right, but we just actually recognized it and we put it on the tax rolls in 21.
Yeah,
Well, not really on the tax rolls, but exempt parcel with you guys.
but it's still not a tax parcel. It's one that we purchased. So I think we need to go to Tim.
Okay.
Jennifer, in any of your research, have you come across any minutes or any notes about why it was purchased in 1990?
I mean, just the warranty deed, it doesn't really state why. So no, I didn't come across anything. I did check with Mike McIrvin in Public Works to see if it was needed for right-of-way purposes. Maybe that's why we purchased it, and he couldn't find any reason that they would need it or why we purchased it. And he's the one that reached out to the assessor's office on this parcel.
You did mention that there's a BPA easement through there, and I wonder if that is part of the reason that we took it over. We own some property in town along the BPA lines as well. So I don't know if it was related or similar in any way. Yeah, in any event, I think a conversation with Tim is merited. And then commissioners, do you want to move forward with the April 12th date pending that conversation or come back and revisit this once Jennifer has?
I think we have to come back and revisit because we can't set a price at this point. I don't see how we can set a price.
I think I'd feel more comfortable coming back and revisiting it after hearing from Tim.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do that, and I'll let you know what he says. Thank you very much.
I just thought of something, Commissioner. Maybe I misunderstood. Are we talking about instead just going to hearing to surplus it?
Yes, that's what I was referring to. The April 12th.
Then yes, I see no issue with going to hearing to surplus it. It's just the purchase of the property will take some of this other stuff.
Okay, Commissioner Trask.
I don't know. I still feel more comfortable talking to Tim to find out a little bit more detail.
Okay. So Jennifer, if we wouldn't be setting this hearing date tomorrow, we would be setting this hearing date on the 15th, correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. So let's maybe pause on this now and then revisit next Monday. If you've had a chance to talk with Tim, there might be an update that would help move it forward to the hearing for the 12th on surplus.
Okay, I will do that.
Sound amenable, commissioners?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Yep, thank you.
Yep. All right. Next, I have John Taylor. He's going to talk a little bit about our Parks Department staff. So a little bit of history on it and kind of how we'd like to move forward. John?
Good morning, commissioners.
Morning, John.
This morning, I'd like to come to you and talk about an additional funds to our park staff of $37,500. We traditionally hold 4 park maintenance workers and 1 admin worker. In 2017, we were reduced by 2 positions, and in 2018, 1 position was added. In 2021, we added funds to a REIT 2 fund contract, which doesn't allow for normal maintenance of parks and fields during the ball season. And so with that coming up, we're asking for an additional $37,500 to fund that position so we can use it for normal maintenance and more specifically for sandhill parks to ensure that those parks are as safe and as well maintained as the rest of the county. We currently maintain 19 parks, so the additional funding would allow us the ability to maintain those fields in, like I said, a safe manner.
Okay, commissioners, any questions or comments for John?
If you remember, the reason why we, just as a reminder, we did this, we ran it through REIT because we were trying to avoid the Me Too's with the other departments. And it was just an opportunity. We knew we had to have the staff. They had to be able to do the things that were needed. And we just were able to find a way to get it done through REIT. But, you know, the money is there now a little bit more. We're not in the same position as we were in 17. I'm supportive of moving forward with this.
Commissioner Trask?
Yeah, as am I. I think it's a great idea. Our parks are pretty darn amazing. I encourage people to get out there and enjoy them. Our guys do a great job. So if we can help them as much as they help us, absolutely.
Commissioner Shute, can I add a little bit just for the public to understand?
Sure.
So John did a great job of explaining it. I think that the part that was a little bit confusing to me was the term maintenance and operations. We actually do have the ability to pay out of the second quarter % of real estate excise tax for maintenance and operations, or maintenance of our capital projects. So if it's actually going out and doing maintenance, let's say you have to go out and repair some bathrooms that have been dilapidated or had been somehow negatively impacted and they need to be repaired. That's things that this person normally could do under that maintenance of real estate excise tax. But what John's asking for is this individual to actually go out and help lining the fields and, preparing the fields for play. So that's more of an operational perspective. And we don't believe that it would qualify under real estate excise tax second quarter %.
Great.
That's all I had.
Great. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, so I too am supportive of the funding request. Appreciate you bringing it forward. Okay, next.
Diane?
Morning, Commissioners.
Or Dan.
I'm asking if we could amend the Bob Droll contract with the RWD Landscape. We contracted with him last fall to go through our Parks Comprehensive Plan, which we are just about done. When he originally quoted, he quoted for $50,000, and Ross had asked him to hold $1,500 back as contingency, which Bob agreed to, but that wasn't included in the contract, and Bob is now billing for that. So I want to know if I can amend it so I can pay him that.
Was that a yes, Commissioner Netherland?
I'm comfortable.
As am I.
Same here.
Thank you. Okay, my next item is a request from the Humane Society. They have asked if they could use Memorial Hall. It'll be next Monday and Tuesday. They're going around in different areas of the county. So next week is scheduled for Shelton to hold a spay and neuter clinic for pets. And they have toured the hall. I have talked with Pete, one of our lead VSOs down there, to see if they're comfortable sharing the hall for those 2 days, because that is when we service for the indigent veterans. And Pete's thinking they can make it work. So I'm asking if the board is good with allowing that use.
Commissioners?
I'm kind of curious because I know that they're also going to be offering other medical services, but I've never seen a request to rent that facility ever come before us before.
No, this is the first one, and they are a nonprofit. So according to our rental policy for Memorial Hall, that we wouldn't have to charge them. And like I said, they did tour it to make sure it would work, and they're thinking it would. And they checked some other areas in Shelton that thought maybe would work, but they said they weren't feasible areas.
I guess I was just wondering why it's going through a different process, why it's actually coming to the commission for a rental. Is there something I'm missing, or?
No, I did it just because we've never had this request, and it is a county facility. So I just wanted to make sure the board was good that we allow it. I mean, I checked, like I said, with the veterans, and they were good with it. So.
So I'm fine with it. I think it's great if it meets our policy and it's okay with the veterans. Commissioners?
Yeah, I'm absolutely supportive. I've been talking with Catherine. We've been trying to find a place for quite a while and bounced around all over the place, from MTA to churches to pitching a tent. So if we can make Memorial Hall work, let's absolutely do it.
And I'm
Okay.
also supportive of it. I actually recommended that she goes and look at that facility and had Kelly look at it with them. I just was a little surprised that normally it wouldn't come before us. I would just go through whatever their process is. Who makes the decision usually on who gets to rent it? I'm just curious about this because I don't know how.
typically, it comes to support services, and then we'll check, if it works as far as the calendar and what the veterans already have going. And, sometimes we'll check with maintenance to make sure. And just because of this type of a use, we've never done it before. So
you're just worried that the type might be outside the scope of what we would want to allow in the building?
Yes.
Gotcha.
The pets.
Now I get it.
And also just making sure that the VA, the Lee and all of them are good with a little bit of pet hair.
Yes, I talked to Pete last week and he was good. So we'll go forward with it and hopefully it all works.
Awesome. And Catherine, great job. This is a great opportunity to get some of our pets around the Shelton area and Mason County checked. So I appreciate you doing this. This is awesome.
Yeah, we are trying to establish as much in the community as we possibly can to let the community know that we have a lot of new board members, we have a lot of new volunteers, and we have a whole new program in place, and we're offering a lot more resources for the community than we ever have before. We actually have started a stray pet program. So we have started picking up stray pets that are loose in the county when they are reported on Facebook. We actually have 2 in our possession right now. So we are just utilizing bigger resources in the world, in the country, to kind of help us figure out how we can be more supportive of our community without a physical shelter building.
And Mark, there was a request from them to get a copy of the job description for our old animal control position and a copy of any contracts that we may have had for housing those animals with either the city or I think it was with the city at the time, but maybe we could look at that and get them a copy of that, please.
Absolutely. So we used to have an animal control officer?
We used to have 2.
Oh,
we had
okay.
one. And
Yes. And I would just really like to know, because I, have been kind of put on hold a little bit by some, I'm the kind of the go-getter of the organization. I push things really far forward, and to not where everybody's comfortable sometimes, but I just drag them along with me and they end up realizing that I know what I'm doing. And I've been completely successful. So animal control is kind of one of those things that I really want to start taking a closer look at, because there was an animal control officer for years without a county shelter, and how that functioned. Now we don't plan on not having a county shelter forever. We have finished our plans with Shelter Planners of America, and we have actual building plans now to build the shelter. Still have to do the capital campaign and get a couple $1 million. It's estimated like the $1.5 million range to build the facility. But we do own the property. I don't know if you guys know that. We own 5 acres that we've fully fenced, put a well, septic, power, everything on the land. We just need to build the actual facility now. But anyways, there are things we can be doing to help the community, like spay and neuter, without having our physical shelter building. So we already fixed that. Now we're doing clinics every Monday, Tuesday. When we're up to capacity, we'll be doing 60 cats and 30 dogs per week. So that's a huge chunk of the animal population right there. And then yeah, I really want to consider this ACO kind of task next, because I think that there was animal control services in the past offered without a county shelter, and I think that they can be again, especially if more resources are utilized like we have through our connections with the Humane Society. I mean, we have partnerships, we have pet staff.
Yeah, I think that sounds really promising, and I know Mark will definitely follow up with you with the information. So happy that we're able to partner with you on the spay and neuter clinic. I feel a little bit like Bob Barker. Don't forget that. So Great. Thanks for
I
joining us.
urge you guys to come down. It's going to be really exciting. We've actually already had Fox reach out and want to come and do a live news presentation. And we told them that if we get the Veterans Hall secured, that would be the best location for them to do that at, because it's such a large, clean, open space. It's a really good place to shoot, I feel.
Excellent. Well, very good. Thanks, Catherine. Appreciate you
All
joining
right.
us this morning. Look forward to a successful event.
All right. Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Catherine.
Okay.
So my last item, commissioners, is the Association of Counties. They're requesting that they come to the county for their annual courthouse in-person visit on April 6th. And I'm asking, I know right now, and I let them know we're still Zooming, of course. And I know today the, governor's going to speak to the indoor masking at 1. So far, there's been nothing moved on the Open Public Meetings Act as far as having to still distance or have overflow. By April, of course, that could change. But I wanted to hear from the board what you think about that.
So Diane, just if I'm understanding it, this is just a meeting with us and them?
Yes, prior to COVID, they would come out to the counties and just do a briefing. And it's Eric and then the president of WASAC is who they anticipate coming out. It would be a public meeting, of course, because it'd be a quorum of the board.
Why are they calling it a courthouse briefing?
Because they go out to all the counties to the courthouses. So they call it their annual courthouse visits.
A lot of places still have their commission offices in their courthouses. We're
unique.
Well, no, ours is actually a courthouse.
Yeah, it can be.
It is considered a courthouse still, so it's just weird. I never heard them call that in all the years.
It's branding, marketing. So I think short of having some additional clarity from the governor on easing the OPMA restrictions, we'll learn a little bit more about masking here in a couple hours, obviously. But I think just to remain consistent with our own policies and the state's policies at the moment, I think we could schedule a Zoom meeting, and if things look different on April 6th, then we could reassess it in between now and then. That's my take, commissioners.
I have no issue with that.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Last time we had our meeting with the governor's office and with DOH, that was one of the questions that I asked them, and I honestly don't think that they had thought that far ahead yet. And so it's good. Maybe hopefully they'll be addressing that soon.
Okay, I'll reserve the date with them and then we'll see in what method it will be when it gets closer.
And will they provide an agenda ahead of time?
I'm sure they will. I'll ask for one.
Great. It's usually asking for dues for other committees.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It's harder to say no face to face, Kevin.
That's true.
That's right.
The fact.
Well, I'm going to jump right into our next deal. We've actually had some activity on our public works lots. So these are the public works lots that are down on Public Works Drive and Dayton Airport Road. I have Richard here with me today in my office to answer any questions that you guys might have. But there's 3 items that I really wanted to talk to you about. Number 1 is I want to give you an update. So the update is on lots 7 and 8. So these lots were actually, there was a purchase agreement with a company that are attempting to develop those 2 lots. I've had meetings with those individuals along with Kellen Todd from Community Services to talk about our permitting process. We received so they had a deal through January 31st that said that they would have to purchase it and close the sale by February 15th. There is some earnest money that they placed down on that. I think it was $5,000 per parcel. And that has expired. So they have an option to, if they would like to extend this, they submitted an addendum that I included in your briefing packets. I am recommending that we do not accept this addendum because as you read it, it says that property purchase shall close no later than 60 days from building permit approval. So that's to say that we're going to, or appropriate to say that we're going to accept a purchase agreement that is dependent upon the issuance of a building permit. We've had those discussions, I believe, and if Kel's on, maybe she can confirm that they do have a pre-planning meeting with our planning department. I believe it's today. Kel, are you on?
Yep, that's correct. There is a pre-app today.
So they have a pre-app today. It seems like they believe that after the pre-app meeting, they're going to have some additional information that they can kind of take back to the folks that are going to help finance this project. And they're hopeful that they're able to move forward. But at this time, the property is actually back on the market, and we're kind of in a holding pattern for that one. The other, so it's kind of difficult because we've got 3 different offers out there. So I kind of want to talk about all 3, and then you can see where we make a decision, it's going to determine on how we handle the other 2. So on February 13th, we actually received an offer on all 6 lots. The offer was approximately right around half what we were asking. So the $2,058,210 is what they had offered. Our listing price is $3,984,651. So I'm asking the board to give Randy the authority to counter offer at a full price if we decide not to accept the last offer that we received on February 17th, which is just for lot 4. And that is a full price offer of $730,719. So you could, hopefully it's clear that there's a number of things going on here. 7 and 8, they're still working on that. They're really wanting to move forward. They've invested some time and money into this project, and definitely want to see it continue to move forward. I believe that the offer that we received on the 13th is, I would not recommend that the board accept that, since it was only half price for all 6 lots. And then if we decide to sell lot 4, then that kind of makes that offer that we received on February 13th null and void, because lot 4 is no longer available.
So Mark, I don't have in my book here the offer on received on the 17th.
I can provide that to you.
Yeah, I need to know what other contingencies are in there. Richard, what contingencies do you remember being included in that offer?
So basically, they have a 60-day feasibility, and that's really about it. They're not asking for anything else. It's a full price offer. If they don't waive their feasibility contingency, the deal does terminate. But they are also working on getting financing.
I was going to say, do we have any type of financing pre-approval or anything?
I made the request and have not received that as of yet.
So guys, I met with Mark and had a little conversation about some of this stuff. And I'll just, if you want, I'll just give you my opinions first. And are you comfortable with that, Kevin?
I'm good with that.
Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, the other one is already out of date. It's out of contract, and that's why the property's back on the market. It doesn't mean that we couldn't, still continue to work with them or continue to do something. But again, when you look at their offer, their addendum here, that doesn't even make sense. We're running into the same issue we had before. This is obviously not something that counties do, and they don't seem to know how to work with that. And usually it shows up on a addendum or some type of thing from the multiple listing service. To have nothing from them makes it hard for somebody like Richard to even represent it, because it's not a document that realtors are supposed to represent. So with that being said, I'm not in favor of moving forward with that one. That makes no sense to close out 60 days after permit. That could be how long, and what their decision is to hold off on getting that permit for another 5 years. I would never want to enter into a contract like that. As for the offer on February 13th, I'm just an old-fashioned firm believer. Even if you say no to an offer, counter back at the full price. Would you make that as a recommendation Richard, also, or just?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was shooting for. Was I was hoping to do a full price counter offer on all the lots, with the idea if they didn't accept it, then we could move on and accept the offer on just lot 4 is kind of what my thoughts.
And that's what I see also, because we can put a contingency on there where this counter offer is only good for, 48 hours or 3 days. And we'll know right away if they don't get something back to us immediately, we can actually okay with accepting this other offer, allowing me to sign the acceptance. Richard always makes sure that it's in the contract, in our counters, that it is not official until the board itself meets and votes to put it into place after the process. Richard is, except for the very beginning, he's added that several years back, and he's never failed us to include that on any counter. So that protects us, even if we accept it. So I guess my recommendation is ignore the first one. If they're out, if they can keep trying to do it. If they come up with something that's a complete winner, they're welcome to make another offer back on it again. The second one, counter back at full price with a 3-day answer. And if no answer is received, to accept the full price offer on lot 4. But Mark Neary, I'd also like you to ask Tim Whitehead, what percentage do we have of flexibility on a yellow book appraisal that we're allowed to work within? Because we couldn't accept that. I don't think it's possible for us to even accept that offer. The appraisal, our prices are based on appraisal. And we can't just say, okay, we'll let you have it for half the price of what the appraisal said. That's why there's requirements that a county get properties appraised.
I can do that.
So that's my opinion, commissioners.
Thank you. Commissioner Trask?
Is there a way, because if they're meeting, if the group that came first, if they're meeting with Kel today, would there be a way to put, I don't know, let them know that they have until, I don't know, I'm not real good at real estate. I've never been.
Yeah, I could reach out to their broker and let him know I need a response after the meeting by today or tomorrow, if you would like.
Okay, because I'd rather not make a decision until you've reached out to their broker to get a little bit more detail.
All right, and the question would be too, I mean, they let the deal die.
Yeah.
Do you want to sell one at a time, or do you want to sell them all at once?
You mean the 2 that they're asking for?
Yeah.
Well, we've got that other offer that's for all 6 lots, and they're only interested in all 6 lots. Otherwise, they don't want to play, according to the other broker. And since they've wasted a lot of time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They could have done all this a long time ago.
Yep.
And I don't know what they were doing, if they were searching for funding or what it was, but all this should have been dealt with a couple months ago. So I don't know if it makes sense to wait for them or not. I'll let you make that decision, but it just seems like they should have done this months ago.
And I want to clarify, if they're already out of contract.
It is, yes.
Okay.
So our contract is null and void. Their earnest money, it should be forfeited. I mean, if they came back with another agreement, they may ask for us not to forfeit the earnest money, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So you'd have to come up with or they'd have to sign a new contract.
Yes. Or a new addendum or something to bring that previous contract back to life. Yes, we would need something in writing. In the conversation talking to their agent, he explained to me he didn't know how long it was going to take, and it didn't make sense to come back and negotiate anything at this point because they weren't sure what their timelines are. Right. And I mean, when did we go under contract on this? 6, 7, 8 months ago. I mean, they should have a pretty good idea what their timelines are at this point in time.
Right.
That's just my opinion.
I'm sure the COVID has set everybody back, but, and I'd sure like to have a hotel, heads and beds, man. I'm talking LTAC money.
Okay.
And as far as selling all of them for half price, that's a hard no for me.
It would be all full price on all 6 lots is what we would counter back at.
Yeah,
Right. Right, but at this point in time, they're just offering half, so half is, yeah, that's a hard pass. If they want to pay full price, I'd love to know what their plans were for it.
I think though that we need to be careful of that as a commission. We'll talk to Tim about that, but I think we can't select it because we choose what they want to put on it. It's open to the public. So
Yeah, I'm not saying that I would choose what they put on it. I'm just curious.
Yeah, there was a letter provided by on the offer for all 6 lots. They're looking at doing some type of motel, KOA campgrounds, maybe some storage units, those type of things, 55 and older park. And that's what they're looking to do with the full price, with the offer on all 6 lots, with the half price offer on all 6 lots. There was a miscommunication between the buyer broker and the buyers. There was some information out there that was confusing to them. And at the time, they made an offer that they thought was a full price offer. And in reality, it was a half price offer. It was an offer on 3 parcels, basically.
oh, I got you. That makes sense. Well, and even then they can counter back with a full price offer on just the 3. If we counter, they can count, they still can counter. We usually give them several days to counter.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll chime in, I guess. So I don't think we have anything really legitimately to consider with the 2 lot. I don't know what you call it, addendum. I think frankly, one of the frustrations throughout the past several months on this and some of the offers we received prior to these was these contingencies that were well out of bounds with what we could even consider or accommodate as a public agency. And so I think there's definitely a steep learning curve there for some of the folks out there making offers on these parcels. I would be supportive of a counter offer to the February 13th offer, and along the lines of what Mark and Richard are both recommending. There's no downside to that. That could allow some back and forth as we figure out, as the first offer goes through permitting today or has their pre-app meeting, maybe there's a light bulb moment for them and they realize that some of their contingencies are unworkable, and they get some clarity on what the path forward would be. That's an option, but I would be comfortable making the full price offer to the February 13th offer, or countering that February 13th offer at full price. And then, coin flip on the February 17th offer. Be interested in taking a look at what they had put forward, but my focus would be on the February 13th offer right now.
Okay, so just so my clarity, so if the February 13th counter offer is rejected, we still do nothing on the February 17th full price offer?
I guess I would be fine with that if that was the only offer that we had. But at that point, I would hope to maybe see something from the initial offer that has already expired based on their meeting today. So I think Richard mentioned that he was going to reach out at some level to them and let them know the direction we're headed. But
these are separate lots, Commissioner Schutte. So the one that they're asking to
Oh,
purchase
7 and 8. Gotcha. Okay. Yep.
is lot
Seeing that
4,
now.
7 and 8. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then I would be fine with the February 17th offer in that regard.
Okay. So just for myself, so I can clarify, I'm to sign to do nothing with the first offer because it's already passed. The February 13th offer, I am to sign a counter offer at full price with a several-day response time. After the several-day response time, if we get a no or we hear nothing, to then move forward with signing the acceptance of the full price offer for lot 4.
Contingent on financing.
Yes, contingent on financing, absolutely.
Or a pre-approval letter or something.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, what do you think, 30 days?
For the lot 4 offer.
Yeah, I definitely want to see, I would like to see proof that they can actually get the funding. Anybody can put an offer on anything, but can you get it funded?
Yeah, and we don't have a ton of interest in lot 4 as well. That's one of the issues there is, do I go for it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pocket gopher is an issue there that something we need to talk about and deal with as well. So if we can't sell all 6 of them at once, then I would be willing to entertain whatever we can make happen with lot 4.
Can I re-clarify then, Commissioner Schutte and Commissioner Trask, perhaps we wait and only give me the ability to sign the offer on lot 4 if the other ones fall through, only if they prove some type of letter of intent or some type of pre-approval for funding.
Pre-approval.
Yeah, I would be fine with that. I have another question, but Commissioner Trask, do you want to respond?
Yeah, I just think COVID is pushing, timelines back and stuff like that too. And I know that it's our responsibility to be good stewards of money. But I guess I would feel comfortable moving forward with the full offer on all 6. And then if that one falls through, definitely the one on lot 4.
With the pre-approval letter as a requirement? Okay. I have a marching orders.
Just a clarification, Commissioner, and you had said for several days. When you say several days, you mean 72 hours? Are we talking like 3 days?
Yeah, it's usually however we like it. Richard, what are you usually comfortable with? A 3-day turnaround or 48 hours?
Usually 2 to 3 days is an option. In this situation here, I think 48 hours, 2 days, which would be 9 o'clock at 9 p.m. on the given day when the offer expires. So
okay,
it would probably be my recommendation.
Are you comfortable with the 2 days, Commissioner?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if Richard's comfortable with it, I'm comfortable with it.
Okay.
Commissioner Trask?
Yep, me too.
Okay, go ahead and put that one together, Richard, and we'll get that one out. And just so everybody knows, if it's not accepted, if something happens in between that this other company that you're concerned about, Commissioner Trask, if they come back with some type of counter, we're allowed to sign the addendum and keep it in force. The original agreement, if that's what they came back with. But I have a hard time seeing them come back with something that's solid because I've never seen anything like the stuff they've come up with so far.
Yeah, well, I've never been a hotel developer or any land developer, so I have no idea.
Okay, so did I state already clear, Commissioner Schutte, or do you want me to restate it one more time?
Yeah, so you're going to sign a full price counter offer for all 6 parcels. If that isn't accepted, then also signing for parcel number 4 at full price with financing pre-approval.
Okay. Yep, I'm clear.
Good. Everybody good? Okay. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. Good job as usual.
Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
Thanks, guys. Hold on just a second. Let me, do I have Kate on? For ARPA talk? Don't. Okay, I can talk about ARPA. Let me say bye to Richard real quick and it's like trying to figure out how to transition from Zoom to in person again here for a second. So apologize. So for an update on the ARPA funding. So what we did, staff went out and talked to all of the individuals that had originally requested ARPA to say, give us an update. Are you guys still wanting some of this money? Because as you look at our ARPA worksheet that is included in your packet materials, you can see, for example, that Mason County utility arrearages had originally requested $154,000. The board never approved it. We were never obligated to move into it. And so that request is still sitting out there. And so staff went and talked to all of the parties that have requests in, but had not been approved to get an update. So as far as the Mason County utility arrearages go, we don't have enough documentation. I think that one can fall off the table. There's other programs out there that have helped individuals with that were impacted by COVID and unable to pay their utility bills. So I don't think that there's a real need for that right now. And please, Richard or Richard Dickinson or Loretta, if you're on and disagree with anything I'm saying, feel free to jump in. There is a request that we confirmed with Frank Pinter on the 10th of February that they still have a request for $123,545 of arrearages for rent. That has not been approved by the board, so we need to determine whether we want to approve those things. Moving down the line here, we've got signing bonus for corrections deputies. There was a request there for $74,266. I believe we've paid for that or have it funded elsewhere. Jen or Kate, anything to add? Hearing nothing.
Mark?
Yep.
We think that it's noted on the list, but I think that I remember that that was paid for out of that one-time revenue last year. I forget what it's called, the
CARES.
GA.
No, it was legislative approved funding for law enforcement in response to some of the legislative reform packages that went through. It was like a one-time shot. We got like 250,000+, I think.
Yes.
Great.
But we need to double check for sure that that's where it's coming out of, or we're going to have a shortfall in somebody's budget. So let's find out where we agreed to do it. I think we did as well, Commissioner. I think that was the idea at the time, but let's make sure.
Yeah, some of those things got intermingled on this list, and
yeah,
need to just separate it out clearly.
Okay, we'll take a look at that.
So moving down the list, we've got, I'm going to skip the ones that we've already approved, but we also have the public work records software, the GovQA. There was a request for $22,700. I do believe that we are using this application, but the board has never approved use of ARPA to pay for it. Diane, anything to add on that?
No, when we did move to GovQA last summer, we brought it forward as it was an acceptable expenditure, and the board indicated that they were willing to do that, but we just never put it in there because we didn't have the invoice till now.
And Mark, on that one, we have the action agenda ready to go for the next meeting, putting it on for ARPA funding.
Great.
I remember it, and I remember us saying we were going to.
There was
just me. I haven't heard from the other commissioners at all, though.
I'd be supportive.
Yep, me too.
Thank you.
Great. So there was a request from Public Health for a message board. I actually got an email from Dave with a picture of a message board. So I'm wondering if that's the same one, but
I thought that was another one they found other dollars to do that out of.
Okay.
Well, no, I don't know. I'm asking the. Well,
I don't know. I know there's one
Dave?
outside their office.
Yes, so the one I sent you pictures of, we purchased with CARES dollars last year, and then this would be through ARPA. So
this is in addition to the one that you sent me a picture of.
Correct.
All right.
So that you could have one up north and down here, right?
That's the thought. And then if we have events like vaccination clinics, or if we're going to do on-site septic week, those sorts of things, we have the ability to get some messaging around the county.
Can you get that money out of that contract we just signed?
Oh, you mean the con?
Yeah, that grant we just signed that gave us $300 and some odd thousand for the mass vaccine planning and stuff like that.
If there's 1.3, is that what it was? Million?
Yeah, I can look at that. So for planning, yeah, I'll look at it. There's some.
So that one, we'll let it stay with Dave and get back to report to us whether he can purchase it utilizing other funds. There was a request originally for $100,000 for design work that may be needed on the second floor of the prosecuting attorney's office. We've confirmed with Kelly Frazier that that is not necessary, and they're moving forward with that project. Him and his staff were able to get all the boxes from out of the attic area and have really done some amazing work in-house to create some office space up there. So there is no funds needed for that. There was a request from Cal for DCD records archival imaging for $500,000. And I believe that they confirmed with Cal that that is still a request that is outstanding.
Yes, that was confirmed.
I think that's a great idea. Do you think it'll cost the 500,000?
I'm looking to see if Kel's on here. I don't see. Oh yeah, she's here. Kel, are you listening yet? Maybe not. So I can go back and confirm with Kel that she still thinks it's going to be upwards of 500,000.
So Mark, Kate did confirm with Kel, and yes, it looks like it could be up to that much.
Okay.
Is that going to be, is that contracted out? Is that bringing in temporary staff?
Temporary staff.
Okay.
So we can move on to the rest of them, and then maybe you guys can kind of get an idea of what's still outstanding, and then let's come back to them. Or how would you like to proceed forward, Chairperson?
Well, I would just keep moving like you have been.
Alrighty. So prosecutor's office, there is a request from Kel. This was originally 700,000, but really it's only about 75,000 is what it's going to cost us to do that work. So I know that they're moving forward on that. I think that part of that is actually purchasing some air conditioning units or heating air conditioning units that would provide climate in that space on the second floor. There is a request out there that's still outstanding for $800,000, and this is to expand the second floor of our sheriff's office. So if you've ever been into they have kind of a conference room, kind of a training room with a little workout room in the back. That if you look up, that goes all the way up to the roof. They were asking if we could expand their space. We would need about $800,000 to do that expansion of that second floor. Our auditor has requested 1.2 million for a ballot sorter machine. That's something that is still a request, but we'd have to find a place to put it. They're fairly large, and we would need to find some additional space in order to accommodate that size of piece of machinery.
How's it? Actually, you may not even know because the conversation started before. We have the portables out here by the courthouse. There was a discussion of doing some shifting around because we're opening up the other courthouse. At one point, they thought that building would work. I guess because you weren't here, so maybe I guess I'm just telling you about it now, and you can look into it.
Okay.
Do you remember that conversation, commissioners?
Yeah, there were definitely a number of options that were thrown out there. That was one of them.
Definitely one of them.
I will take a look and ask Auditor McGuire about that. I'm going to skip you down to our next line, which is the EDC water line, 101 to prison. This was a request from the Economic Development Council, $1 million. Belfair Water has contacted and has confirmed with me actually and requested again to get 197,000 for backup generators. So currently each one of their well sites does not have backup generators on it. Some of their well sites actually have communications for our fire and police out there on top of their reservoirs, maybe. So I think that on top of their holding tanks, they have some antennas up there that have really improved communication throughout the county, radio communication throughout the county. But in the event that we were out of power, those would not be powered because there is no generators on those. So that's something that Dale Webb had called out and asked for. There was a request for a sewer line extension again from the EDC from high school to the basin. It's about 2.5 million. Wallace Nealon substation, 3.2 million. The rural broadband out in Quaqualam area, about 500,000. And that one we're kind of waiting for. There's a lot of broadband money that's out there right now. And I know that if these projects are ready to go, that those entities that would put in, this is most likely PUD3, would be requesting broadband funds from other sources that are really designated to do broadband expansion into our rural areas that currently do not have that capability. So I've recommended, you can see on the list here, that we hold off on that one.
There's so many entities out there. There's CURB, there's SYNC, there's the state broadband office. There's just numerous, and then of course Commerce. So there's numerous ways to fund broadband right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I would recommend we hold off on that and see how successful they are in finding other sources of funds to do the broadband expansions. There was a request for, this is something that I've talked with Jeff about at the city of Shelton, and they are moving forward on the Shelton Gateway project. That's where they're actually replacing some of the asphalt coming in on Railroad, I believe. And there is a point there where it goes from city to county. And so in order to make it, continue to expand it out to the where the overpass is, I believe, that was about $250,000 request that we could kind of work with them with that project to make sure that it wasn't just a line where you hit the county and then it went to the old asphalt again.
Hey, Mark, are you also reaching out to MTA because they're going to put a bus stop out there by the Turning Point or domestic violence shelter?
Oh, so, I did not know that.
Yeah, check with MTA regarding that also, because, if all three of us are working together, probably be.
And you said it was by what shelter?
Turning Point. It's our domestic violence shelter here. An amazing shelter, I might add.
Great.
So Mark, a little bit outside the box thinking on something here. The water line from 101 to prison.
Yep.
Okay. Is it possible for us to put that in and still put a utility district over the top of it to recoup those funds and be able to use them again? And you may not have the answer now, but maybe that's something you could look at.
Absolutely, I'll look into that.
Because imagine how many more things we could do if we were able to set things up like that and go into other projects right away.
So that's an expansion of the city's water line, I believe.
Yeah. But
so
yes, their water line, but it's out into the county.
Okay. Yeah. I can.
Am I wrong with that, commissioners?
That it's into the county?
Yeah, it's their water line, but it goes out in to the unincorporated area of the urban growth area.
Correct.
I will check into that. Then the Mason County Courthouse Building 10. There was a question. I think that this is currently being funded out of REIT $1. So there was a question as to whether we wanted to use ARPA funds for some of that work. And I'm assuming this 750,000 is I don't know that it has a phase attached to it, but it's the work that we're currently trying to get accomplished surrounding the external portion of that building. We will be moving on to, there's a request from the district court to move on and continue to finish the inside of building 10 that would actually allow them to transfer out of their current location into fully operating within that new facility there. It's something that we're trying to coordinate with Superior Court, because obviously when we're still in the times that we're in right now, we need those spaces to handle courts for both Superior and District Court.
It might be good to go ahead and start planning ahead, because I do think that, just watching other states and other nations, think they're starting to open up. Well, I'm sure that Jim and our judges and our clerk would love to have more space, and I'm sure the district court would too.
Yeah, absolutely. So we could get a timeline on that, and then I'll start working with them on what does it look like in terms of additional work that needs to be done within building 10. I do know that there were some preliminary plans that Patsy sent over to me last week. So I will sit down with Kelly Frazier and take a look at those and see what it would take and what has been budgeted. I believe that there was some budgeted still in REIT 1 to pay for the remainder of that project. But if the board would like to utilize some of these ARPA funds, I think that this would be an allowable use. We also, so that completes the list of items that were on the master list when I showed up. I do have a request that I believe I've provided to each one of you from the Port of Allen. So the Port of Allen is in a position now where they are running out of capacity for water, and they believe that they're going. I talked with Larry last week. Yep, thank you. Yeah, and he let me know that this is something that they are asking for from the legislature. They're asking for some money to help them with drilling a new well. They do have some pressure with the Department of Ecology coming to them saying that you need to. And with development that is going on out there, he believes that he's going to run out of capacity come 2023. And so he's hopeful that this project is ready to go. The property is purchased, the design is done. Really what he's looking for is money to actually drill the well. And the amount that he is asking for is $500,000, or excuse me, $400,000. And he said that if he was successful in getting the money from the state, that he would not want this money, but I think he's a little concerned because of the timeline associated with that, when he needs to get the work done, that if he does not receive money from the state, that he could rely on some ARPA funds to do that drilling. So I was going, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we have 10 days until the end of the session. I think it would be fine to put it on the list at the appropriate place. But I look at our Russellwood project on here that we've already approved. That's another one of those things that, depending on how the budget shakes out for us, could fall off. So, I think we're going to have to really, it's great to have the conversation today. And if there are things that we want to add, we can do that now. But ultimately, we're going to have to revisit in a couple of weeks when we have some clarity from what happens in the legislature. Commissioners?
No, agree 100%.
Yeah, I think put it on the list and we wait until we see.
Okay, no. And then so the part that I kind of wanted to point out is that when you look at the totals that we have listed in here and what the Board of County Commissioners has approved versus what we've actually expended. So we've expended about $1.4 million of the $6,074,000 we received in 2021. So I've reached out to folks to say, where are we at on some of these projects, and are you going to get them done? Because there is a timeline associated with when we need to spend these dollars. And I do believe that the majority of the projects that were listed as approved by the board are in process. So sometimes it's just a timing, the time of year when you can actually do the work. Some of it is kind of waiting to see if you get some additional funding from the ledge, like the Russellwood that Commissioner Shitty just referred to. So the rest of these projects do appear to be, especially the ones that are from our Public Works Department, they're on track and ready to go. They just are kind of ready to get started, I guess. We should start seeing some of those costs coming in.
Well, one of the beauties of this is they've actually given us time for a change to be able to do it. So it's not like a hot potato and the money has to leave our hands quickly. I think it's smart for us to wait until we see what the legislature does and reassess and look at it again, unless there's something that you see that I don't see that is absolutely necessary to be done immediately.
Nope, this is just an update to kind of let you guys know what we're working on and just to make you aware of kind of where we're sitting. I believe that we're going to receive an additional $6 million in June of 2022. And so I want the board to start thinking about how do we want to spend that? How do we want to advertise it? Do we want to develop some criteria for folks that may be looking for additional funds to come in and do some projects? Or do we want to spend it on some of the things that we know we have out front? So as a part of our public hearing tomorrow night, one of the things I was going to talk to the board about is the funding that we have in real estate excise tax second quarter percent, the 0.09 funds, kind of giving you a perspective of what's on the horizon in those revenue streams and what you've dedicated already to pay for certain things. And then opportunities that you might have with some ARPA money to do additional projects that when you look at water and sewer utilities, those are specific things that are allowable within the ARPA expenditures. So if the board would like to entertain looking at ARPA, especially with the money that we have coming in 2022, then that's an option that's on your plate also.
You know, one of the sad things that I've seen with how we handled the ARPA funds this so far is we didn't have a criteria set up. We did it off our hip. And for that kind of money, we should definitely have some type of criteria. We had talked about even going to the public and having an open discussion with the public regarding those dollars. I would sure love to see us put together a criteria, set up something to where we can go to the public and have some conversations on where they see the greatest needs are, and then let people apply or let entities and stuff apply accordingly to where they think they fit within the criteria that we set up. But this last time we just did it, everybody threw in the request for money and we just expended it out.
I believe that we utilized the SEDS list.
SEDS list, yeah. But it's, again, the SEDS list is not what everybody thinks it is. It literally is just something that allows you to go after federal funds and stuff. And it's not vetted. It's not, because you don't even ask the question of who's got the ability to do what they're asking for. It's just something that goes on the list that allows them to go for those monies. That's all that does. So, but we use
absolutely. If you could start thinking about some of the criteria that you'd like to do for, especially for the money that we're going to receive in 2022, and communicate that to me, we can kind of put that together. We can definitely outline the parameters of how this money can be spent. As you might remember, Jen updated you a couple of weeks ago on the final rule that came out regarding ARPA funds. It did open it up a little bit in the sense that in the past, when we calculated our revenue loss, we thought we were around 1.8, 1.9 million. That number has been raised by the feds to be 10 million. So that definitely opens up that category. And then I think that some of the projects that are listed in there, those entities are also competing for other dollars to come in and do some of that work. So like you said, hopefully in 10 days, we're going to see a revised list and individuals are going to come back and say, hey, we actually got specific funding for it from some other source. We don't need this amount or we don't need this much. And it allows us to kind of update these numbers and move forward. This money does have to be spent by 2026, I believe. Is that correct, Jen?
Yes, that is correct. It needs to be spent by then, but obligated by 2024.
So obligated by 2024 is the first deadline, spent by 2026. So something else just to keep in mind. So that's all I had for you, unless you have other questions for me.
We'll all provide you some feedback on criteria, I guess, in the interim, and we'll see what happens at the legislature.
Great, thank you.
I have a letter here that I'm looking at, commissioners. Oh, is that from you, Commissioner Shooty?
Yeah, so
Okay,
are we,
sorry.
Mark, have you reached the end of your? Okay.
Go for it.
Thanks. So commissioner discussion. So probably by now, most of you are aware that there is a increase in funding and a budget proviso from the Senate to increase funding for the freight corridor project to make sure that that stays on track and still keeps moving forward. So I'm bringing forward a letter for us to submit to the chairs and rankings in both the House and Senate Transportation Committees, as well as our delegation and DOT's regional Olympic region administrator, Steve Rourke, just in support of the proviso to make sure that we get that funding secured here over the next few days, final days, I guess, of the legislative session.
I think time is of the essence. This looks a lot like the one that was sent over from Overton Associates, and I think it's a great idea that we move forward as fast as we can to give backup to that. The time will be over, as you said, in 10 days. So
Yeah,
I'd like to have it on the agenda for tomorrow.
Yeah, that would be my recommendation.
So.
Signed by all three commissioners?
Well,
yeah, I mean, however, I don't really care. I mean, just as long as we get it done tomorrow. So I'm good with that, commissioners.
So I'm hesitating. I think you all know that I'm on the Public Works Board. They are Representative Fye submitted an amendment saying that $2 billion was going to be diverted from the Public Works Assistance account. And we all know what that account is for. It's for helping with infrastructure and there's emergency loans and things like that. So his amendment is to, so it's, sorry, it's $2 billion in revenue over the 16-year lifespan. I've been speaking with some of our representatives in the House, and the Republicans are very opposed to this, but they support the transportation package, but very opposed to this amendment. So I would support the letter as long as money is not diverted from the Public Works Assistance account.
Yeah, I totally get that. The proviso's in the transportation budget, which is not the package.
Right.
So we can work that language somehow into the
Well,
letter.
I kind of hate to add provisos into it. The more we muddy it, the harder it will be. I like the wording the way it's set. How would you read? How would you have it read? That we don't want it if it comes out of the.
Well, maybe just putting in simple language like protecting the Public Works Assistance account. I mean, that language wouldn't be that hard. I'm sure that all the representatives, all of our legislators or delegation would understand that very simple language.
Yeah, I'm fine. Like I said, I mean, I'm fine softening or adding that. I don't have an issue with that. I think the proviso being separate from the transportation, the bigger transportation package, they're kind of separate, but I have no problem saying that we're also supportive of maintaining the Public Works Assistance account since we are ourselves beneficiaries of it.
Right. Yeah, then I'm 100% in. My allegiance is to the state and to Mason County, so it makes my life a little bit more interesting, I guess, at times. So, but yeah, let's do it.
Commissioner Netherland?
Yeah, if you can find a way to put it in there where, I'm just not sure where it applies on this, but just put it in and we'll get it through, but time is of the essence. I'd rather have it done
Okay.
and out tomorrow if we can.
Yeah, that's fine. So then I have to update the total of the proviso as well. I shorted us $600,000. So I'll update that and add the language about public works assistance and then resubmit to Mackenzie and Diane for tomorrow.
Okay, I think it's great and it's gonna help with our traffic issues, so. Perfect.
Great. Okay, thank you. Any other commissioner discussion? Okay, perfect. With that, commissioners, do you need a minute or do you want to roll right into, we are very much behind schedule. Do we want to keep going or do you need a minute break?
I'm good moving.
Let's go. We'll move forward.
Hey, Jim Madsen, are you on? Jim, thanks for your patience. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, commissioners. Good morning. Two items from Superior Court. One is a interlocal agreement and the other is a contract. The interlocal agreement is just kind of a continuation of our agreement that we have with Thurston Mason BHO for our Involuntary Treatment Act funds that we receive for holding those hearings. And I just want to preface that both these items today have already been seen by Chief Deputy Tim Whitehead. And so I'm just asking that we move these, the interlocal agreement with Thurston Mason BHO, as well as the business associate agreement that's alongside of that to continue for us to receive fundings to continue to do those hearings.
Good.
I'm supportive.
Yep, me as well. Thanks, Jim.
Great, thank you. And then the second one is a contract. This is due because we have our JDAI grant that we received, the Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative, and I haven't been able to come forward yet because I don't have the documents on that grant, but we're set to get an amendment of an additional $3,500 and it's $3,500 a year for the rest of this state fiscal year as well as next state fiscal year. And I kind of want to get going on being able to get contract in place with electronic home monitoring from the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs. They are the ones that we can get the equipment from and provide that service, which will help allow us to keep kids in the community while keeping the community safe rather than using detention on some of those kids. And so this contract, again, is just with them to allow us to start using that as soon as we get these funds from JDAI. And when I get that document, I'll come back before you guys to get that approval.
So you want to approve before we have the funding to do it?
Well, we have the funding currently in the current contract. This additional funding that we're going to get we can change our budget to reflect that. If we don't get this additional funding, which I am not anticipating, we do have funding in the current grant that would cover it. It's a pretty nominal fee. It's maybe anywhere from $6 to $10 a day for a kid that's on this.
So just to be clear for myself, even if we don't have it, you're saying we do have the funds to be able to cover it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I'm supportive.
Absolutely.
As am I.
Okay, that's it. Thank you very much, commissioners.
Great.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, I think that moves us into community services.
Well, good morning, commissioners. Okay, so we have three items here, and I have one more that just came in. So we're going to start off this morning with the Consolidated Homeless Grant. You see that we've got the contract here. It's got Amendment B. There's no budget impacts. This is passed through. There's a new allocation of $86,628, and this is going to this is going to Crossroads Housing, and it's part of our standard CHG standard funds. So we'd like to move this on to the action agenda next week, please.
Good.
Okay, I'm supportive, Commissioner Neville.
Yep.
Good. Okay.
Good. Our next item is Alex.
Morning, Commissioners. So today I have a request to replace an EHS position. So previously this was a water quality position that was temporary due to the grant project funding that it was tied to. I'm requesting that we replace this EHS with a regular full-time. And this is due to the changes in funding we have for the position. And so in short, we'll finish up our project grant that ends in this September with it. And then they'll kind of roll into our clean water district work, which is a much more reliable funding source. This change to regular full-time, it has impacts when we go out for temporary staff and just retaining these people and stuff. So if we can keep the position to regular, I do think it will be best. And I would suspect that we have to go to action agenda because of the change in designation, but if you're good just doing a briefing on it, that works for me too.
Commissioners?
Yeah, but it does have to go to the action agenda, but I think it's a great idea. I know you guys need help, everybody does, but I think that this is a good position, so support.
Oh, and I think it's a good position, just to clarify for everybody though, this is one of those things we have to keep an eye on and, you know, for temporary. And is there any other funding that's coming in to cover this, or is this going directly out of the base funds? It was done by grants originally, right?
Yeah, so this position was added. We've always had the second water quality position for a long time anyway. Typically tied to grants. Sometimes we would have gaps because of the grant funding and contract gaps that we would have, but we've always had the second water quality position. As far as our clean water district work, we are proposing 2 full-time FTEs. So this specific position is the second of those FTEs that we're proposing. So it is budgeted within our clean water district work that we're planning on working on the next several years.
Anything else? Okay, I'm supportive as well.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Okay, and the next one is Marissa with Planning Advisory.
Morning, Commissioners. The Planning Department is bringing forward a draft request for proposals for consultant services. The department previously briefed on the SMP competitive grant that Ecology was offering and subsequently awarded us to develop a shoreline development website and SMP user guide. Because this was a new grant program for Ecology, they took a little bit more time to finalize the contract, and they just got it to us last week. So we finalized the RFP, and we would like to ask the board for permission to put the approval of the RFP distribution on tomorrow's action agenda if possible. But that is basically what we were asking, to continue that SMP competitive grant process.
So just for clarification from me, we're not looking at changing the SMP. What we're looking at doing is creating a website and a user guide to make it easier for the citizens and stuff to be able to utilize and stay within the process.
That's correct. We're trying to make a tool that makes the SMP easier for the public to understand and utilize, correct?
Okay, I'm supportive.
Yep, me too.
Great, I am as well. Thanks, Marissa.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and with that, the next thing I have, Commissioners, isn't on your agenda because it happened just like 24 minutes ago. So we did just get news, and if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and read this.
Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, so today, Washington, Oregon, California announced a shorter timeline to lift most mask requirements. This follows the release of CDC's updated community level metrics Friday and a review of our state's data and modeling this morning. After March 11th, most public places in Washington and the 2 other states will no longer have masking requirements. This new date does not change any other aspect of the updated mask requirements previously announced in our state. Masks will still be required in certain settings, including healthcare, corrections facilities, and long-term care facilities. Federal requirements are still in place for most transit settings. This timeline allows our state to continue to gain ground on the hospital capacity, and it also gives schools and employers time to get ready. DOH will release updated guidance early the week of March 7th as previously planned and ahead of the effective date. The effective date for the K-12 requirements, Secretary of Space covering order, and any other related guidance will be the earlier date, which would be the March 11th date. And there are some changes to the transportation, but we're gonna have to sort through that a little bit to make sure we have a good understanding on that. So bottom line is 11th of March, the mask mandate ends, with the exception of the federal requirements and, as noted, the healthcare, corrections, and long-term care facilities.
Hey, Dave, did they mention anything about public meetings, you know, social distancing, things like that? I know
No.
we've asked, but we've not gotten.
No, we've asked those questions, and I think those are going to be in that March 7th guideline release.
Okay.
Now, the governor's going to be on in about an hour and a half to go over this, but this is the three states got together, so they had a joint release at 11 o'clock this morning.
Okay. I think he's going to be on at 1, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's interesting that we got the news before. That's the second time that that's happened in a long, long time. That we get it out before the briefing. So, hey, as soon as you get the information on the transit together, could you share it with us, please?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Dave. Any other questions for Dave or staff? Okay, great. Thanks, Dave.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next up, moving to Public Works. Loretta?
Happy wet Monday. We've got 2 items on the utility side this morning, commissioners. One to continue a lease agreement with the Department of Natural Resources and execute an agreement relating to our solid waste closure. And then Mike has 3 equipment purchases to discuss as well and request approval for. All right, Richard, want to tell us a little bit about the lease agreement that we have with DNR?
I do. Hopefully you can hear me. Let's see. Back in 2002, March of 2002, we entered into a 20-year agreement for 50. We wanted to lease 50 acres plus or minus a little bit adjacent to our North Bay plant for irrigation spray field. That lease will expire March 31st of this year. And we're looking at renewing that for another 20-year period. Budget impact, well, first, it's necessary. We need it. Hopefully you approve it. And the budget impact, something we plan for every year. The first year would be $9,267.27. And it has an annual 3% increase on the rent for each year after for the full 20 years. And that's basically the gist of that. Hopefully you will approve that when it comes time.
Okay. Commissioners? Same. Okay.
All right. My second item is for an Eels Hill landfill closure monitoring project. We got our last quarterly monitoring report in 2020, and all of those have been submitted to Department of Ecology and to our own environmental health. And environmental health came back with a couple of questions they're kind of out of my ballpark. And so we would like to hire parametrics to help us assist in explaining the results and addressing any further questions that maybe Ecology and or Department of Health may have for us. The not to exceed price of $7,602 would be the budget impact, and that would be paid for out of the landfill closure fund. And we recommend that you authorize the deputy director to execute a contract with parametrics to fulfill those services.
Yep. Support.
Same. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. Okay, and now Mike will present a list of some items that were included in our budget for equipment purchases, and we'll run through those with you.
Good morning, Commissioners. First item is the purchase of a plate compactor, 1,000-pound plate compactor, Washington State contract. We have one currently, but it's either in Belfair or Shelton, and the other guys are wanting. It's just not practical to operate with one compactor. So this is for shoulder widening projects and road repairs and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like fun.
Supportive as well. Thanks, Mike.
The second item is the purchase of John Deere 544 wheeled loader. We were looking for a used version of this, but the ones that we were looking at were within a few $1,000s of the new purchase, and they lacked the warranty. So what we did was we looked at some of the surplus equipment we had and worked a deal with Pape Machinery to trade in a couple of our old cat loaders from their 1980, 1983 loaders and one backhoe. We got a trade-in revenue of an estimate of about $77,500. So the remaining balance for the new purchase of the loader would be about $122,000. So we had budgeted, I believe, $230,000 for that. So we're about half of what we planned on spending. So
how are we getting a 41% discount?
I don't. I'd have to double check that. I don't think that's a 41 discount on Sourcewell contract through this.
I didn't think it'd be possible. I wondered if they're considering the trade-in.
I think it's a typo that I didn't catch. So
yeah.
But yeah, through Sourcewell program, that's usually that's similar competitive bid like state bids. So.
Having good equipment like this when needed keeps us from getting people hurt and gets the job done. So I'm supportive.
Yeah, same. I think I like looking at John Deere, their advertisements, because it's always dealing with hay or cows or something like that. So yeah, I think it's cool. I support.
I'm supportive as well.
Thank you. Next is to purchase an additional pair of automatic flagger assistance devices. We currently have 2 sets of these. The crew has totally embraced the process. It's they allow the flagger to be mobile. They allow them to be out of harm's way. It also allows, from a management standpoint, to have an extra employee doing other work. We do have 3 operations going. We were looking into renting them, but the vendors don't, they don't have any to rent anymore. They said everybody's just buying them. And so we'd like to go ahead and purchase the additional set here, so we'd have all 3 operations be able to utilize this process.
I've yet to see one for use out in the field. I can be sure that the employees are liking it, but how's the public responding to them?
Public, typically the public at first, they're, if it's new, they're kind of hesitant and of what to do, but they're fairly common around enough now to where we've not had any complaints, and I've not heard anything from the guys saying people are running the stoplight or anything like that. So I think they're adapting to them well.
I think in general, Mike, also it provides a quicker time through the work zone, right? We don't have as long a delay for the public.
Yeah, we wouldn't know if they didn't like it because they're cussing out a machine as they're going by. Roll down the window to yell at the machine that says the flagger. For those of you that don't know, back in the 90s, early 90s, I was a flagger, PD. So
you would appreciate this piece of equipment, Commissioner.
I'll never forget Harstein Island. I had one guy with a little dog. He just wanted to see what was going on. He's the only one on Harstein Island. He drove through it and through it and through it. So I had to run back out to the street just to take care of just him. He'd go by, I go back to work. About 20 minutes later, he'd back in the circle, do it again. Be nice when there was a machine, just push a button and say, okay, stop.
Yeah, but they still have to be engaged with the public, and they're still available there. But it also, what I was listening to them the other day describe that they still get to be part of the crew, to get to be near the crew and be engaged with the crew too, so they don't feel so isolated that way. So yeah,
I'm supportive.
Embraced it. So
great. Commissioner Trask? Good. Okay. I am as well. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, commissioners. Just a couple of quick updates. You probably saw that Skoke Valley Road was closed again this morning. Surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, this recent rainfall has created some maintenance issues, and one of them being the road closed. I know that Mike and Jeremy and our supervisors have been busy with various little flood related and wet weather related items this morning. So that's been happening. A couple of items to come your way, commissioners. We've got the announcement tomorrow for TIPCAP membership, but we'd also like to talk a bit with commissioners about whether there's any interest in doing a quick cleanup. I know we talked a bit about it 2 weeks ago on the resolution establishing TIPCAP and simplifying so that we can make sure that we fill a couple of the vacancies that we've had for a while. So if commissioners are interested in that, we'll bring that forward.
I think we need to get this done as soon as possible. I understand now that they've been told they don't exist as a committee right now until we get this done. We should have, that's why I understand they couldn't have meetings. They don't have a committee. That's what they were told.
No.
2 of the members.
The commissioner, the group wanted to have a meeting this month. We are having a meeting.
Yeah.
The committee exists, absolutely. It's simply a matter that some of the members have expired in terms of their term. So if they were to make a recommendation and take a vote, then I guess my personal feeling is I would feel differently about that they basically could meet, but not necessarily take action. But that's not the case for this upcoming meeting.
I'd be happy if you just picked out of a hat a certain percentage of them, made them a 1-year term, a certain percentage of them you made a 2-year term, or however we can work that so that we do have a consistency on that board.
Yes, thank you. And that was the part of the conversation that we had a couple weeks ago. And Kelly had been drafting some language for commissioners to take a look at on the resolution. And the other commissioners, just a question. I don't know if, I guess I did look at the other memberships or the other advisory committees. There's no term limit, if you will. So I don't know if that's something that other boards have, or if that's something to consider. And then the other item, like I said, was just making the language in the resolution a little more general in terms of where the committee members come from, and simply stating that they represent different modes of transportation rather than having a category for each particular interest, if you will, in transportation.
Yeah, I'd definitely be interested in taking a look at that and having a conversation around some of those items. I think for the sake of making sure workflow is not disrupted in any way, figuring out how we can at least have a quorum intact if there is action to be taken. Maybe just reappointing everyone for a period of 6 months as we evaluate the resolution. And you mentioned Kelly's working on some language, so I'd be interested in taking a look at that, but making sure that in the interim things aren't disrupted too much as we go through that process.
I like that idea, Commissioner, of if they're willing, we're reestablishing them for 6 months while we restructure how we want this to be done for the future going on, and how to stagger the positions.
The appointments, yeah. Great.
So can we just bring that to the meeting on Tuesday and to reappoint temporarily for 6 months as we go through the restructure?
to take it to action tomorrow, Commissioner?
Yeah, just the way you have an active working committee still without being outside the bounds of what they're supposed to be.
If that's the commission's desire, absolutely, we can put together an action agenda for tomorrow or an action item.
I would be fine with that if you can turn it around, Commissioner Trask.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Good deal.
And you may, by doing that, you may also be able to help figure out which ones would like to sign up for 1 year, which ones will sign up for 2.
That was one of the things we planned to talk at the next upcoming meeting, Commissioner. Yeah. Yes. Okay. And then the last item, just a heads up, Commissioners, we met with some property owners in the Lake Limerick vicinity, Sunnywoods, and we're discussing and have been discussing for quite some time the potential for a road improvement district. And we will bring some briefing materials forward for commissioners to take a look at and discuss whether or not you have interest to proceed on taking a look at establishing one of the first road improvement districts for quite some time in Mason County.
We had a discussion some years back.
Yes.
I don't remember what came of that. Could you also supply any material we may have had from that?
Yep, absolutely. And that is all I have for now, Commissioners.
Thanks, Loretta. Commissioners, anything for Public Works? Okay. Nothing for me either. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any additional commissioner discussion?
I think just real quick, because it looks like things are opening up, if we could start discussing how we can do a hybrid where we have in-person and those that can't attend in person, maybe the Zoom option.
Sure, I think that would be appropriate for Mark and Dave to work on,
especially in the beginning.
Yeah,
I to be completely honest, I don't think the Zoom option is going away for most anything that we do. I think it's been really helpful in getting some additional people engaged and giving them some additional options. So I think from here on out, we're going to be looking for ways to incorporate a virtual option for people.
Yeah, I think they're doing that at all levels of government too, including school boards, the state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to definitely be going through a transitional period where we're relearning how to do things in person coming out of the virtual world. But I do think it's a value add to have some increased participation this way going forward. So, Mark, is that something you're good working with Dave on? We can see what comes out on the 7th and go from there.
Absolutely.
Great.
Okay. I would agree with you, though, that I think Zoom's here to stay, and what a great opportunity for folks to be able to participate from their homes or from wherever they're at remotely. I'd love to see us continue to keep that option open for the public.
Excellent. Great. Okay, Commissioners. Well, we've reached the end of our agenda. No additional discussion. I would entertain a motion. We adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
The second that we adjourn. Any discussion? Now I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion carries. All right. See everybody tomorrow morning.